So the primary function that a working group achieves in a legal perspective is basically provides a greater level of patent protection than you normally would get from a standard open source IP license. So just, for a quick reference, IP is that piece of code specifically, not the idea. If you copy that piece of code and you do not have permissions to do it, you break an IP law. Now, patents are idea concepts. So if you write that someone writes that piece of code, you like the idea, you write your own piece of code using your own thing, but using the same idea. If that idea is patented, you've broken the law, okay? So what we have is a system where we ultimately need companies who are the owners of the patents to say, I agree. That's what we need. And we don't currently do that in the MicroProfile community because everything is voted on as an individual, and there is no one who represents the corporation to say, we as such and such company agree, and therefore cannot sue you over the patents that we may have in this technology. So we desperately need to add this process where we have a company on record saying, we agree. So
company or organization, let's fix that.
Regardless, the legal owner of the patents need to say, we agree, right? And so the Eclipse specification process adds companies as voting members. And so we need to get that accomplished while also keeping ourselves to be very community focused. And so that's been the balance we've been trying to strike. So that's the high level thing. You want to scroll down, John, to the membership. So currently we have basically just two kinds of member. Maybe I'll scroll down a little bit more of the actual table. Yeah. So effectively there's technically three, because committer member is a member. You are allowed to vote in the committer vote. All committers who have commit access get to vote according to the working group process.
We need to add that into this paper. We added it before, but it got removed. I added it before and it got removed, and we need to insert it once again.
Okay, yeah, we'll probably need to re-add that. So we have corporate members who are, of course, the owners of patents and things like that. We have guest members are basically people who we would, want to be able to be on the website, but they don't have any vote rights at all. Right now we have like 20, or I don't know, 15 logos on the website. We would probably invite them as guest members, though they would not get a vote. And so that's where we're headed at. We have discussed in the past having elections for individuals to represent the entire community, but we opted instead to have the entire community always represent the entire community. And so that community vote would happen in parallel to the quote unquote vendor votes or the member votes. And what we would do is we would total up all the community votes to be one vote. And then that vote would stand next to the other votes for the different members and become the final outcome. There are specific committees that you have to have in a working group. Specifically, you have to have a steering committee, and they have basically the overarching ability to change the charter, change the fees, change whatever you would like about the working group. There are other committees, such as a specification committee that you typically have, and a marketing committee. We have always been a very flat community. We don't have hierarchy. And so what we have discussed is having basically one committee for everything, do all the stuff. I'm effectively not having a marketing committee because we would just use the community as we have been doing, and everyone would be welcome to participate. And to basically have all of the meetings be public meetings. And in terms of frequency of the meetings, to try to keep them maybe to once a quarter, somewhere in that range. So that's a high level thing. I don't know if I think there's nothing more on the end of this document. You want to?
No, well, the one thing I was going to add is that, basically once a quarter, this meeting would become a steering committee meeting. It would be much more formal, right? You got to take, attendance to make sure you have a quorum to do any voting things. But basically, once a quarter, this meeting would be that, and the plan is to have it all public just like it is now, right? So, yeah, I thought, yeah, somewhere in here we do describe that committers.
Right there, committer community count as a single vote. You got to scroll up.
Here we go.
Yeah, so that's where all that is. So anyway, the overall goal is to close the patent gap while keeping ourselves very into committer and community focused run place to be. We don't want a dynamic, we don't want to see the whole thing change to be just completely, you don't have a voice unless you're a vendor. That's not our goal. So I know there were some bunch of people who are invited to show up, and I guess we'll open up for questions and comments. So I know we have A Jug and C Jug here. I don't know if you guys want to, ask any.
Let's not abbreviate. Chicago Jug and Atlanta Jug.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Welcome.
Anyway, now's a great time to pipe in and ask any questions or whatever you'd like.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Hi, I'm Summers with A Jug. This is my first one of these community meetings, and so I wanted to say thank you to David for, and Vincent, who's also from A Jug and is also on this call. Thank you to both of you for pointing this out and pulling me in. That's all I want to say.
It's wonderful to have you join this call.
More the merrier. So are there any questions about the MicroProfile working group proposal? I don't know if you've had a chance to read this proposal before joining the call. If not, we can revisit this discussion next week. Same time next week, we have a working group call that's the entire hour as well.
John, sorry to bother you. We do have a question. Someone from AndresTafur. Can you ask your question? It's about the working group in MicroProfile.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there are any guidelines about creating local groups in cities or something like that in order to boost MicroProfile visibility. I know a lot of developers around here, and they are aware of MicroProfile, but they seem to be too scattered. So have you have any previous experience, or how do you manage branding and so on and so forth? Is there some kind of guidelines about that?
Your question is, let me rephrase. Do you wonder if MicroProfile, the ecosystem itself, support jogs so that sessions can be given on MicroProfile, or you mean creating a MicroProfile jog for a different city? There are two questions that I could assume based on your question.
Well, not as a working group contributing, but just to have visibility about MicroProfile. I mean, it can be just a hangout with some people, it can be a congress, some kind of conference. So
yes.
There are any guidelines about branding on that topic?
We don't have a guideline. Usually, if you are new to MicroProfile, you send a message to the forum and say, hey, my name is X, I come from this community, and I am interested in learning on MicroProfile. Then there is a wiki that tells you exactly how to navigate. And if you want any speaker, there are so many globally on all languages that could speak on your jog or on your community if they are invited virtually. You just reach out through the forum, and it's so fluid, it's so simple. You see?
Yeah. I think what Andreas is asking for is how to promote a MicroProfile locally. I think Andreas, presumably you are involved in a local jog. Am I right?
Well,
local Java user.
I haven't seen any local job, but yeah, the answer, the question is what Emily said. It's how to
Right.
promote.
Like okay, I think for this is kind of either if you are like comfortable to like do presentations on MicroProfile, I think is good for the local you approach local jargon to do the talk. If you are kind of linked with the local JAG, and then you can like send them email, as Amelia saying, maybe is ask somebody on the MicroProfile community to give talks on any kind of very specific areas and etc. I think it's as a community, we have approached various JAGs and to talk about MicroProfile. I think we should do more like to promote MicroProfile. I think this is a good community effort. I think everyone is able to contribute, like bring awareness in the local community.
I think also if you're looking for speakers who if you would like to invite people to your jug to speak, you know, I don't know that we actually have like a really good way for jugs to like solicit, hey, I'm interested in having someone speak. Maybe we can add something like that to our MicroProfile marketing Git, some sort of issue people could follow, you know, file. I would like to get a, you know, speaker on topic X, Y, or A, B, or C, or something like that.
Yeah, currently that is being done privately by many of the JAG leaders across the group, but you are correct. And we do have a reminder every week that goes on, if you're a speaker, please submit your Git ticket so we can promote you. We means the MicroProfile Twitter handle can promote you. We have the session, we have the slides for any speaker to use. We have the speakers tags that are media already in the MicroProfile drive, all ready to be used by anyone. But you are correct. This is a really good question. We don't have something that says how you should, what should you should send a message to the forum. You should write a Git ticket that is not listed anywhere, and we should do that. So, Andres, do you want to volunteer to write that Git with us? And if so,
oh yeah. By the way, you quickly learn on these calls that if you make suggestions, you quickly get an action item.
Yeah. So, Andres, do you want to add your name to the agenda? And then I can follow up with you and we can create the Gits and do everything openly. Because if you're asking, there is definitely something that needs to be done, and it will not be done by me or anyone here. It's just whomever said, oh, I want to do X. Let's help pilot it. What do you think?
That would be awesome. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks for
And
this.
this actually sounds like a good thing to add to the new website, request a speaker or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan,
So,
you're here. Expect that Git issue coming your way. We will add a button.
correct.
John, can you show
I think I just gave myself an AI. Any other victims?
You freaking do. Can you create the Git and send it and submit
I'll
it
do
to
it,
Ryan, and then that's it. Just
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any working group topics?
Yeah, I got one, David. Just following on from elements of that last conversation between Andres and everyone else. We had a board meeting last week, the Atlanta Jug did, and it's our intention to join the working group, subject to reviewing whatever legal document there is. But it is definitely our intention to become part of the working group as an organization.
Excellent.
That's fantastic.
so
Awesome.
fantastic.
We highly applaud that.
Atlanta JAG.
Yeah, seeing Java user groups join the MicroProfile community, I think, is an incredibly valuable thing that would help us, keep that community spirit alive and kicking, and really improve, how it's perceived and it continued to be the fun place that it is now for people just to show up and randomly participate. And so, that's great. Anybody else have any other questions or any comments? I know we have some people from the CJUG. I know you guys have some questions or some thoughts, anything you'd like to share or ask.
Yes, hello. So this is Mary from CJUG, Chicago Jug. So I like what I've heard, and I need to be bringing it back, to our group, our board, to basically have a final vote to see what it is. And of course, with me here today, Josh Juno is also here too, I believe. Right? So Josh, maybe you want to add any comments too? Josh?
Well, I'm just, I appreciate you inviting CJUG to the meeting. I've been following MicroProfile for some time, and I think it's a great project. I think it's a great idea to have this working group opening up in this means. I think you answered this question when you met with CJUG separately, or were doing your presentation, but would the individual working groups, user groups get committer votes, or are they as a guest?
You would be a member. You would get a vote equal to any of the other members, such as if you would have a vote equal to a vendor.
Mhm.
Okay.
So Josh.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yes.
Josh, when we wrote the draft, we were just thinking about 3 types of memberships, and included into the corporate versus JAX, but I think we now need to do 4 memberships. That means we add the computers.
Add members. I think adding many membership levels adds hierarchy to.
No, the thing is that at the moment, what we have, that is not, we have the JAGs as guests, and we need to rewrite that section.
No. If they join and pay the fee to join, they get a vote like anybody else.
Yes, and we know this, but I'm talking at the moment, we have limited, because of the written of the charter, the JAGs to be only joining as guests. Now, Atlanta JAG has said—
No, we have the ability to invite anybody as a guest for any reason, but they get no actual influence in the community.
Yes. So then we will leave it as it is, and then anyone that becomes a paying voter will be a solutions member. That is the minimum requirement to join the working group at the moment.
Well, we only have one level. Actually, yeah, we only have one level that's strategic.
Yes.
So, I mean, when they join, they would be a strategic member. So there's 2 ways. Well, there's 3 ways they could influence. One is, at the lowest level, I guess, is doing what we're all doing here. We're just participating, right? Anybody can do it. Then you can have individual members become committers on various specs or projects, just like any one of us can do, right? So you could do that today. And you would have a vote that rolls up along with all the other committers into a single vote that's equal to a vendor or a member user group, I guess. So you have a voice, a direct voice that way. And then the third way is exactly, you join as a strategic member, you have a vote that is on par with anybody else in the decisions, that need to be made.
Right.
It will be 1 vote for the Chicago JAG, 1 vote for the Atlanta JAG, right? And then as an example, if the Chicago JAG joins, if the Atlanta JAG joins, currently we have 3 members that are confirmed. That is the IBM, Tommy Tribe, and Red Hat. Then we will have maybe 2 JAGs, and then we have the community vote. This closes at least the minimum requirement, that is to have 5 members, so that we go from the working group that is under incubation to a full grown-up working group that allows us to do MicroProfile 4.0 release. That is exactly where we want to be. We are stuck here, and we need to move forward.
That would be how it could play out. Yes. Of course.
And there is no pressure to the JAGs. You guys, you are amazing. A few of you are already committers to MicroProfile. So this is just like an open conversation.
Yeah. So at this stage, we have been at 3 for a while. So, there are certain things we know that are on the to-do list, which haven't progressed forward. If we reach to 5, and if, then the next step would be, we need to start looking at what it would take to get the participation agreement drafted, because that's what actually makes 5 members. When you have the participation agreement drafted and then 5 people sign it, you are officially at 5 members, right? So we don't have a participation agreement yet. And so if it looks like we're at the finishing line, then we would want to prioritize that and get that across.
And we will write it really quickly, not really quickly, but we could write it under, like we have done the charter, using a few other documents that we have from the Eclipse Foundation about working groups.
Well,
so from scratch.
That's a legal document. So you know, the Eclipse legal counsel would want to draft that. You know, just they're professionals like anybody else, and they don't typically like to have a document handed to them. They particularly typically like to make that document.
Well, if they don't want to draft it, it's using previous works.
Anyway,
so
there's plenty of participation agreements out there now, because there are more than one working group that has this specification process in place. So I don't anticipate that being a particularly complicated thing.
I just don't want to see a 10,000 just to draft that. If that is the case, I prefer to draft it myself and then submit it to this forum, and then start from there. Because if it's going to be 10, 20,000 for that, I prefer we save that money.
That's not exactly how legal works, right?
So
I'm just saying, anything that will save money.
Right. I have a quick question.
Sure.
It's great to see CJAG, AJAG is interested. So just for clarification, for the MicroProfile working group fees, is talk about corporate. Have we double checked with the Eclipse Foundation? Is JAG qualified as a corporate?
They are both legal. They're both incorporated.
And
oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
Totally cool. MicroProfile would be amazing.
Okay, so I just my question. Okay.
If other jugs listening decided that they would like to join at the lowest level, which is, you know, the 1,500 level, they would also have to be legal entities to join.
Right. Okay. Because I'm not sure whether all the JAGs are legal entity or not.
Not all of them are. Some of them are.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's cool. It's seems both of them are legal.
And Emily, your question is great, because it's not only the 1,500 we have added. Immediately after we shared the exhibit for budget, we realized that item was missing. So we fixed it. Our original plan started at 5, but that was a mistake. So one thing that I want to make sure is that first, the JAGs need to become a solution member for the Eclipse Foundation. That is about 1,500. So to join MicroProfile will be a cost of 3,000 for any JAG, because it's 1,500 just to be a member of the Eclipse if you are not yet, and then 1,500. We only control the working group fees. We do not control or dictate the fees that Eclipse Foundation itself, as a foundation, requires for members to join on solutions. So please.
Do you have a link to that?
Yes.
Is the fee for that a public fee?
Yes.
Is it publicly documented?
I will add it to the agenda, but it's added to the charter. And it says the minimal requirement is for you, the corporation, to be a solution member, and it's there. And it tells you everything in the charter, but I will add it into the agenda because it's important.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
We're coming up on the end of the hour. I want to make sure that if there are any questions, we're getting them addressed.
Crickets.
All right.
For those ones who joined, John, don't stop it yet. For those ones who just joined today and was for the first time, you have been added, you were a member of the forum, you got this invite out of the blue. What are your takes on this? Someone has to have some idea of what went down if you are totally new to these kind of calls.
Someone raise their hand if they're thinking, stop talking about all this in public and go talk about this in private and just tell me what the decision is.
Best call moderation ever.
There is nothing about being brave. Come on, you guys.
Anyway.
That's all right. I don't want to put anyone on the spot here.
I always do.
Yeah, so we are at the top of the hour. So next week is the working group meeting. We tend to spend a full hour. well, a full hour is allocated. We don't always spend the full hour, it just depends on the topic. So I think what would be a really good idea is for anyone that hasn't looked at the charter to take a look at it. Feel free to comment directly on the charter or bring your comments to next week's meeting. Same bat time, same bat channel for next week's working group call. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I hope to see you next week.
All right,
Everyone
thanks.
for joining. It was wonderful.
Thank
This
you.
call is recorded, only the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, I got caught up in the moment again.
I know the photos are distracting. Being beautiful matters. I guess.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, see you.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for joining, everybody.
Thank
It's really awesome.